Hi. Okay. First, I just wanted to show you that I'm wearing this hat because something in me told me that I needed to put something on my head. Protection. I'm also wearing my crystal, and I have a crystal in my bag. But then I remembered that I don't need none of this because I'm surrounded by the universe, and the universe is my protector. So I'm fine, but I will say that the energies that I'm about to talk about are a lot, and I was feeling a little like, whoa. It's hot out, and it's literally 8 something in the morning. I woke up first at 3:33 because I was going to try and see the planets being aligned, but I was so delirious. I looked out my window, I couldn't see the planets as far as I could tell, and I went back to bed. And then I set my alarm for 4:35 because I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up then and try and look at it. Girl, I ended up doing PM instead of AM. But funny thing, I fell asleep, and guess what I saw? The planets aligned. I had the craziest dream that I'm almost convinced was not a fucking dream. It was like me, like my house in like the astral realm. That's what I'm convinced it was, because it's very similar to the place that I just recently also had a dream in. So it's like this place where there's no walls and it's just outer space surrounding me. So I think it's in the astral realm, and I think it's just my home there. And I think I was just over there, and I watched the planets be aligned, and I watched Saturn move from one space to the other, and I watched like the physical space of Saturn in the past. So there was Saturn in the past, and that was in gray. And then there was Saturn in the present, which was in its color. And then there was like the future, which was kind of like this whirlpool. And so first I want to say that things are about to get very clear. We're moving into Mercury in Cancer, which for me is a fantastic thing because my Mercury is in Cancer. And I just feel like the clouds are clearing. If you look at the skies of Mercury, which is what the sky looked like in my dreams, there's no cloud coverage. Though that's interesting because we can talk about time travel, because I had this thing with time travel and clouds in like a report that I wrote down, but I don't have it with me, so I'll make that into another video. But yeah, you guys, what I'm here to talk to you about is, first of all, yeah, things are going to get a lot more clear, probably emotion-based communication, because it's Cancer, and you know, we're the intuitive, feely gals, the watery gals. But honestly, what I want to talk about is what I think is going on in Hollywood, which in turn affects all of us because we're so closely connected because of social media, because of the internet, because of the way that, you know, media and celebrities and influencers influence the rest of us, whether you like it or not. Okay, so in the past 2 dreams that I've had where I was in this like astral realm space where the universe was right literally outside of my door, and I could see outer space very clearly, see the planets, see the stars. The Kardashians have showed up. I also had another dream with the Kardashians in it. That dream was not a good dream either. This recent dream was fine. I just saw Kylie Jenner's face. And it was kind of moving with Saturn. And then the planets that I saw in my dream were Uranus, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter. But those weren't the planets that were aligning I don't think those were the planets that were aligning, but those were the planets I saw align. So I think that those are the energies that are going to be important. And I think that this Saturn retrograde, like from now until October, things are going to move very, very quickly. And I think a lot of information is going to come out. A lot of secrets are going to be revealed. And there's something around the Kardashians, and I think that it's going to be Kylie who brings it to light. So I need everybody, if you're watching this, and I know that there's complicated feelings around the Kardashians and the Jenners, and I understand those feelings, but I also want to ask people to try and hold space for where I'm going to bring this conversation, and understand that that doesn't mean that accountability is being taken out of people's hands and things like that. It just means that we can have many conversations all at once. But right now, this is the conversation I'm having. If they trigger you in a certain way that makes you unable to see the complexity of a situation, I understand. I'm not even judging you. But please try not to bring that energy so heavily into like this video, because I need to be able to talk about this with clarity and not feel like I have to cater to everybody's personal emotions about how they feel about the Kardashians, okay? Because I know it's complicated. I know we all have our feelings. A lot of our feelings are valid. It's just whatever. So, let me say, I've never thought I would talk about celebrities on this channel, because it's not really what this channel is about. But this channel is about, I'm really just trying to deliver messages that I get from the universe. And most recently I talked about Beyonce, but I was really just talking about her song Break My Soul, and I was talking about house music, but I ended up getting into things that I think are spiritual, and she's also showed up in my dreams. And with the Kardashians, I'll just say that I'm 21 years old, so for most of my life, I've been aware of the Kardashians. Maybe since I was like 7, I've been watching their show. I've always watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I've watched their new series, The Kardashians. And to be completely honest with you, I don't dislike them, you know? I find things that they do, I think that they do some pretty shitty things. I think that they participate in a culture that is trigger-based. I think that they participate in racism. I think that they benefit off of a lot of racism and sexism. I think that they do all of that. I also think that they're complicated, and I don't get, to be completely honest with you, I don't get a bad energy from them. I really don't. Like, I don't know what it is. I think that there's a lot of ignorance is bliss type of energy, and there's a lot of also just kind of being controlled energy, and it's not just from their mom. I don't really feel like it's just, I don't feel like it's Chris, you know? I feel like it's men in the industry. So yeah, I just want to start off by saying that, because I know there's complicated feelings around all of them. But I've got to be honest with you all, like, I mean, energy is real, right? I don't feel any bad energy ever since I was a kid. I really don't. I like watching their show. It actually calms me down. And the more that I've watched them, and as I've grown up and been able to understand their personality a little bit more, and especially as I've been tapping into my spiritual gifts more, the more that I'm realizing that there's a lot of insecurities and a lot of defensiveness and a lot of sadness and isolation, and I think that there's something deeper going on. Okay, so I'm gonna say that a few months ago my sister and I were having a conversation about women in Hollywood, and we were specifically talking about women artists, and everybody's been talking about the way that the rise in plastic surgery and non-surgical plastic surgery, and everybody looking alike, and what does that mean, and like the new era, like the Instagram face, which you could consider like kind of like an AI development in the physical, with people just beginning to become more robotic in their appearance, and it's neither here nor there. It's just the way that things progress with certain things. Some people won't look like that. Some people will. You know, I think that plastic surgeons have been irresponsible? Yeah. Do I think they've been unethical? Absolutely. Do I think they're exploiting women? Absolutely. Do I think that there's a lot of ethnic cleansing and erasure of appearances that are clearly non-European, or just not the stereotypical European look? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I do. So all of that is happening. But, and I just recently, I posted this video about the fact that I think a lot of men and young boys are being, like, their bodies are being hosted by demons. I'm trying to say this, like, sometimes I can't take myself seriously because a lot of me is still like, girl, what the hell are you talking about? But I'm going to share the message, and I'm just need to say it. But yeah, I posted a video about that recently. I called it, like, Healing the Divine Masculine Heart, because I didn't want to title it that. But that's what I was talking about, and I was talking about how I was noticing in my dreams, or in my daydreams, that it was a lot of black men. But I think it could be happening to many different men. But I do think that black men are extremely vulnerable. And I think it starts young. And I think especially as younger and younger black boys and black men enter the industry through different waves, through hip-hop, through sports, through art, because those are the main ways that black people end up getting represented in Hollywood. I think that we need to be aware of changes that we notice, which also means that there needs to be a certain level of engagement with who people were before they were in Hollywood. But that's hard. That's hard to do. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say is I've also been talking about sexual energy a lot. And in a recent video, I think it was like, your pleasure is your freedom, something like that. I don't know. I was speaking about how I think that sexual violence is a form of violence and a form of trauma that every single person experiences. Every single person. I don't think there's anybody on this earth who has not experienced sexual trauma and sexual violence. Because sexual energy is so vast and complicated, and the ways that it can affect each of us and the ways it can show up for each of us is very different. And so there's a diverse amount of ways that you can become traumatized via sexual energy, because sexual energy is like life energy. But anyways, I think that there is a lot of sexual violence happening in Hollywood. And I mean, it's beyond like the obvious, right? So we know that recently there's been the Me Too movements, and we just recently had that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, and there's a lot that's already been coming out. And then there's also, I guess, like a sexual liberation movement happening in hip-hop with black women, but like, is it sexual liberation? Probably not, but it is what it is. There's more talks around sexual expression. There's more freedom around, there's more discussion around sex. It's just more open, and especially including women. And there's this thing around like dominant women, right? And like there's these things around like your vagina. There's a lot of talk around how wet you are, and that your vagina controls men, and that you can steal somebody else's man with your vagina. Like there's a lot of very, very like sexual and super like body-based energy, and the body is so important right now in terms of sexuality. I mean, there's BBLs, there's lip fillers, there's breast implants and things like that. There's butt stuff, there's having a small waist, there's the thigh gap, there's all these things. So a lot of energy around sexual stuff, but it's not very, I wouldn't really consider any of it positive. And the Kardashians are a huge part of that, right? Like there's a lot of body trends that I don't think happen just because of the Kardashians, but because they also tend to partake in it, it does reverberate out into the rest of things by people who tend to be influenced by that type of thing. And anyone can be influenced. I mean, influencing somebody is not hard. We are social creatures, and we are spiritual creatures. So being influenced is not a difficult thing to, you're not weak because you've been influenced. It's very common to be influenced. And it's very easy to be influenced. It's also easy to influence others, like I said. And sometimes you do it without noticing. Okay, but I want to talk about what I think is happening, because I think that, so, my thing is talking about the telepathic stuff and spirituality and the mental stuff. I think that there are spells, and that there are there's warped things happening in Hollywood to women. And God, it makes me sick. I don't know how to describe it even. And it's happening to black men as well. It's happening to black men, and I think it's happening to women. I don't know why I'm thinking just of black men. It might be happening to other men of other backgrounds as well, but black men come to mind, and I think that that's because black men are also hypersexualized, and also hyper vilified. They're vilified, they're sexualized, they're criminalized, all of this stuff. It's gone on forever with the black buck, and on Pornhub there's blacked. There's always this weird interracial fetish with black men's private parts and things like that. So there's a lot of things, and the Kardashians are obviously connected to that as well. Okay, there's something happening in Hollywood, and it's around I feel like there's this spiritual control of a lot of women. And I don't even think it's a thing where it's you're fully under control and you have no power. I think that there's an awareness of it, and I think that there's an effort to break away from it. I think the reason why the Kardashians stopped keeping up with the Kardashians and moved to the Kardashians on a completely different channel, I think that was intentional, and it wasn't just about, a fresh start and a new outlook. I think that there were spiritual connections that needed to be cut. And I think that there are power heads in Hollywood who are unseen, who are controlling a lot of the dynamics that are happening. And I think that because the 3 Kardashians who have showed up recently were Kim, Khloe, and Kylie. I know Kylie is a Jenner, but you know what I mean. So Kim, Khloe, and Kylie. Kylie showed up in this recent dream just last night. And then Kim and Khloe showed up in this other dream where I also had a dream about this young black girl coming to me and talking to me about how she had been sexually assaulted by a president. I'm not going to say who, because, I don't know if any of this, the idea of reality is I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just telling you guys what is happening and what I'm feeling. I don't want to say that any of this is what's happening, because I don't know. I really don't. But I do think that sexual violence is happening on many, many levels. We know that human trafficking and sex trafficking is huge. We've seen all these things come out with Jeffrey Epstein recently. And I think about why Kylie Jenner showed up in my dream last night. It was just her face. But she didn't show up doing anything. It was her face was moving with the planets. And I can't help but feel the reason she showed up is because, first of all, she's the youngest. But she has 2 kids now. And she used to date Tyga, which was really weird already. He was way too old for her. She was a child when she started dating him, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure she was actually a child. But yeah, she's been hypersexualized since a very young age too. And she started getting facial stuff, not surgery, but fillers and things like that, very young. Oh my gosh, sorry. And I think that, oh God, I don't know. I think that somebody's going to come forward from that family and begin to talk about what's happened behind the scenes. But I also think for that family it's very difficult, because I think a lot of what's happened is, I think it's been a lot of spiritual control. I really do. And I think it's been a lot of blackmail, because why in the world was Kanye West able to get Kim's, like, all of her sex tape stuff back, but she couldn't? You know? She's a billionaire at this point. She has all this money and all of these resources, and yet she still, like, is blackmailed about these things. It's insane. It's actually insane. And I understand that it's hard for people to have compassion, but she had that sex tape when she was young. I know a lot of people do that. Almost everybody has had their nudes exposed. It is what it is. People just do that. It doesn't make her a criminal, you know? And I think that, I don't know, even that Roblox thing felt very sinister. And there was a lot of jokes about it, but can you imagine, like, your child is playing on a game and somebody is saying that they can show your child your sex tape? That's terrifying. That's crazy. That's literally crazy. But that is the daily for them. And the men that they date feel so ugh. And I can't help, I'm thinking of, okay, I know I'm going all over the place, but it's honestly because I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just sharing with you what's come up because it feels significant. And because it ultimately does affect all of us. What affects one woman affects us all. It's just true. But I'm thinking of that one line in Frank Ocean's song where he said, "That's why I'm wearing a yarmulke, because demons are trying to body jump." That's why I swear, there's something going on. Yeah. Hi. Hello. Yeah, demons trying to body jump. It's real. I think that's real, you guys. And because of the way social media works and the way that more and more people are becoming celebrities, it's not that hard to become famous these days, right? So more and more of us are being pulled behind the scenes. I think the reason why I've been having dreams where I can just see outer space so clearly is because quite literally the veil is being lifted. We are ascending new levels of consciousness. We're seeing things more clearly. July, I think a lot of things are going to be very clear. But I think that, I don't know, there's something, like I even saw yesterday or the day before, there's a Facebook post that was talking about what's it called, Carisha and Diddy and their relationship, and like the Facebook commenters, like, this is like young girls and old men are like such a cute relationship thing. And I was like, wait a minute, what? But then I was like, like, who would actually agree with that? Like, it felt like it was something that was actually trying to trigger people. And I think that that's what's happening. We are in a world where, like, we're constantly being traumatized, right? And being traumatized through other women or through our own identity groups, right? Like, we're being traumatized by women, we're being traumatized by Black men. For me, that's what's always on my page. It's some male podcaster who's a Black man who's saying something horrible. So it's like getting you from your own perspective, kind of. And I've been saying to my sister that it's been interesting because I felt like, in terms of white people, it's white women who have been getting a lot of shit versus white men. And she was saying that, like, that's just in my bubble, that's just what I see. But no, I know it to be true. I've seen it again and again, time and again. White men have managed to really pull themselves out from under the rug that they were, like, just starting to be thrown under, you know? It's very, like, with Karen and with Amber Heard and with the Kardashians,
And with that one little 13-year-old girl who's now like, I think now she's like 19, the Catch Me Outside girl. There's so many different ways that it's white women representing white people and taking on a lot of our anger. And it's not to say that it's not, there's ways that it's justified, but I find that white men are slipping under the rug. And I find that there's a lot of control. There's a lot of control that they have, and that there's something that they're doing. Like, spirituality is not just for us, you guys. Spirituality is not just for people who are like, I want to change the world and for the best, blah, 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 blah. It's not just for us. Everybody uses it. Spirituality is just existence. It's just life, which means everyone has access to it and to the full range of it, depending on how awake you are. Just because you're awake doesn't mean that you're a good person, right? You can be at the highest levels of consciousness and be an asshole, because consciousness is complex. That's why I was saying in another video, you can be in your higher self, and your higher self can be a piece of shit. The higher self has range, right? Higher does not mean good. Higher just means higher, right? And lower does not just mean bad. Lower just means lower. Just take it literally, and also understand that everything is a spectrum. So there is a spectrum of low energy, of low vibrational energy, in terms of good and bad, evil and good, whatever the hell you want to put it on a spectrum of. And there's a spectrum of higher vibrational energy, and not all high vibrational energy is necessarily good. You know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is, and you land where you want to land. You choose what you want to choose. But we are all going to ascend, and that doesn't mean that we are all going to be on this same like peace and love wavelength. No, ascension doesn't mean that everybody gets better. It just means that everybody gets more conscious. That's all it means. But just even being conscious does not make you a good person. I was talking about Kendrick Lamar the other day in the same video that I was trying to talk about Beyonce, but this was a video I didn't upload. But I hadn't listened to his album because I just wasn't feeling drawn to it. But I know that his song is trending on TikTok, the argument song. But the song that I listened to was like N95, I think that's what it was called. And he says a line in there that is like, to me, this is what I got from it. He said a line about having sex with white women, like the different white women he's had sex with. And there's something around like feeling like his ancestors, it was like revenge for him, for his ancestors. And you can take that however you want to take it. But for me, when I heard that, it immediately was giving sexual violence. Why would that be revenge for your ancestors, you having sex with a white woman? It would be revenge because of the sexual violence that happened against black men and black women, black people during slavery, right? So now you're enacting sexual violence against white women? Because, let's just be logical. Why would it be revenge for your ancestors? So what are you saying right now? That sex with white women, for you have the intention of being sexually violent. So you were just admitting to sexual violence. That's just what it was. And you can feel how you want to feel. It's a complicated thing. It's complex. We get it. But that's what it was. That's what he said. And we're okay with that, I don't think that's okay. I really don't. And Kendrick Lamar is considered a conscious rapper, right? And he says a lot of things that are really interesting, but consciousness doesn't make you a good person, right? And it's the same thing with that one J. Cole song where he says, the heart to understand why a husband's beating on his wife or something. And we were supposed to care about that. What the fuck? You see, these men will say things and it's just like, what are you talking about? And so then you have to really think about, what is consciousness for you? What does it mean to be conscious to you? You can't follow these people and allow them to define things for you, because look at what they're actually saying. They're saying some bullshit. They're saying some pure bullshit. And yes, they need to grow too. I'm saying there's something going on with black men. They're spiritually very, very vulnerable. They're really, really vulnerable spiritually. And I think that there's a lot of
I think that there's these white men. I think it's literally what Get Out is. I think there's white men in Hollywood, like, but that aren't famous, that they're like just rich, they're powerful, they're the ones running the scene, that are so spiritually advanced that they're like, they host themselves in the bodies of black men. I swear to God, I swear. That's what I think is happening at some level. I think that those are the demons, the ones that are super, the white men, the men, I don't know, the people who are very powerful, very rich, and able to exist many places at once. That's what time travel is, right? Because every place is a specific space, and if you can time travel, it doesn't mean that you're no longer in the present. It means that you can go to the present and the past and the future and all these other places. There are people who are so spiritually advanced that they are able to be in many places, and that's also because of accessibility. That's also because of power and money and what you've inherited generationally from your ancestors, and what you put in your soul plan, what gifts you wanted. The soul plan is not so, souls are not unbiased. Souls are not just, this is what I'm doing this lifetime, but last lifetime I was homeless. And no, you can decide whatever you want every lifetime. And there are souls who choose to be in power and choose to seek these things that are literally detrimental to millions of other people every time. There are souls who continue to do that. And they are also souls that are in their higher consciousness, that are highly advanced, that have ascended. Ascension doesn't mean anything in terms of good and bad. We need to disconnect the two. Sorry, hold on. Oh. Yeah. And so, sorry, that's not to say that Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole are horrible people. I'm just saying let's understand how complex and complicated people are, and how complex and complicated consciousness is, right? We know that very well. But yeah, I think that sometime between now and October and into the future, okay, so from now on out, I think that I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's closer to October and then into the future, because I think it's more so in the future. I think it's further on out, but I think that we're going to start to see things revealed around the Kardashians, and I think it's going to be through Kylie, because I think that she's faced a lot of trauma being so young and brought up in Hollywood in a way that wasn't like she was an actress, like a child actress or something like that. She was just on a show where the context was built off of sexual violence, because releasing somebody's sex tape is sexual violence, right? That is sexual violence. That's revenge porn. That's sexual violence. And look at how many things we have around that coming out too. Why in the hell was that show about Tommy and Pam? Why was that allowed to be made? Pamela Anderson didn't approve of that. So that was non-consensual. And it was still made. That is fucked up. That's fucked up. And look at how many people that we were ooh, who are cool, that participated in that. Seth Rogen, that one guy, that one girl, Lily something. It's really, really fucked. And this is happening very often. Sexual violence is becoming as normalized as it is also becoming as demon. It's happening at the same time. It's becoming normal, but it's also becoming vilified, but only vilified in a way that is super fragile and not long lasting. We know Jeffrey Epstein is gone, but what are happening to all of the people that we saw were connected to him? What's happening around that? I don't know. There's too much going on. There's so much in the media, I can't focus on what's actually happening. We know that sex trafficking and human trafficking is horrible right now. We know that it's really bad in Toronto. What's going on around that? I have no idea. No clue. Not a single clue. There's just too many problems. There's way too many things going on.
And all these girls in Hollywood, why all of these, like, especially I'm worried about black women. I'm worried about black women in the music industry. I am. Everybody looks the same. And everybody's talking about sex and everybody's talking about their vagina. And it's just like, it's not empowering. You know, it's empowering in the way that you're getting to have your own money. So, okay, you're establishing independence for yourself. You're trying to make a way for yourself where you don't have to depend on anyone else. That's empowering. But it sucks that this is the way that it has to happen. And it's hard because you see also a lot of these women also itching to be in a relationship. Every 5 seconds, they're arguing with somebody else's ex-girlfriend or the mother of their child because they're dating this one guy who's trash, but they're dating them because it's also hard to find a partner at this point. Being famous is like, being a famous woman, it's kind of akin to what happens to housewives. I was talking to my sister about this as well, but once you become a housewife, you either try your hardest to keep your marriage or your marriage inevitably falls apart, and dating after that sucks. I can't imagine what it feels like to date as a housewife, because as like one of the Real Housewives, because all of those guys are scammers. They're all scammers. Like, none of them are trustworthy. Literally none of them. And all of those women end up taking care of those men, but lying and saying the men take care of them. Like, there's so much that you lose, you know? But you get financial freedom for yourself. It's like sacrificing this so that you can get this. But in the end, everything is sacrificed, and you are sacrificed. And it sucks. And it's not, to me, it's not women's fault. It's literally just, we're in a really shaky era, and I don't even think that we're in a bad place. I think that we're feeling all of the really difficult energies right now, and it feels super concentrated in toxicity because it's being pushed out. And we're going to get to a point where we are so aware of all of these things that are happening that it's just too much, and people either begin to disengage. I think people are just going to begin to disengage, because we've all noticed that we've all stopped kind of being on social media so much. Like, YouTube is drying up. Instagram has been boring since the dawn of time. Twitter is literally like a bubble. Every tweet is literally the exact same tweet. It's ridiculous. It's literally the exact same tweet. So everything is drying up. I think social media is going to go through a revolution. And it's going to go through a revolution through our disconnection from it, because you don't want to be on there. There's nothing on there. It's just negativity. It's just shit. It's just crap, you know? Everything's becoming inaccessible. Some ways it's good. Some ways it can feel bad. But ultimately, I think it's for the best, and it's what needs to happen. First, we started seeing it with that net neutrality thing, and now we have to pay for all these articles, and nobody wants to pay, so nobody reads an article in full. So you rely on a tweet, and you rely on the information you can get out of it. But now it's like beyond that, because now nobody wants to be on social media. So soon we're going to be so disengaged that the information that you do have is going to be given to you telepathically. It's going to be spiritual downloads. That's how you're going to know what's going on, because we're not going to be on these sites that we've been getting all of our media from. And I think that that's a really good thing. But what was I saying? Why am I saying all this? Oh, well, I was talking about the Kardashians, yeah. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I feel like there's a lot of sexual violence happening. Spiritual sexual violence happening against a lot of women in Hollywood. I think it's happened to Beyonce. I think it's happened to the Kardashians. And I think Khloe, Kim, and Kylie are some of the more dominant ones that it's happened to out of the Kardashians. I think it's happened to a lot of women. I think it's happening to black men. I think their bodies are literally being hosted by other people. Demons are really just other people. It's other people's energy, but it's on the spectrums, right? So I'm just saying, there's a lot happening. People are vulnerable. People are very, very spiritually vulnerable. And you need to protect yourself. And the ways that you can protect yourself are by becoming more aware of what's happening around you, becoming more present, and being more in tune with the universe. Really start to see the world around you and see it for all of its complexity. You know, I went on social media and I was on Instagram, I think, and I have to I was trying to watch these new seasons of The Housewives because sometimes reality TV is like a nice escape, but it's just becoming too sinister. Like, holy, like it was bad. Like the season of Real Housewives of Atlanta where Phaedra said that stuff about Candy and stuff, but even this season there's some, but anyways, I think my sister's gonna make a video about that, so I'll leave that to her. But yeah, there's a lot of sexual violence happening very openly. I will just say that episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta where Candy gave everybody the vibrators, the vibrating underwear, and then she didn't reveal that it was possible for other people's vibrators to be triggered by one remote control. Like anyone can control anyone's. That is sexual violence. That is sexual violence. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's non-consensual. The fact that they showed that on TV was insane because you could see that Sonia was like, what's happening? And it wasn't stopping, and it went on for a minute, and that's humiliating. And my sister was saying, that's a whole kink. That's a whole kink. Oh my God. Everything is connected, you guys, because I just was on Craigslist looking for an apartment, and I saw this ad warning people about this landlord, this creepy landlord who took this girl who was a Ukrainian refugee who's here in Canada now looking for a home, like a permanent home, and took her into this dark basement apartment and closed the door and had a camera set up, and she thinks that it was like a fear porn, humiliation porn that people post online. That's a whole thing. And I'm not accusing Candy of that, but I'm saying that type of thing is not okay. And if you were aware that it could be triggered by other people's remotes, you have to say that. You have to say that. And it's not crazy to me that this was against black women, that this was against older black women on a reality TV show. It's not shocking to me at all that this happened on Real Housewives of Atlanta. The sexual violence is so deeply embedded, and it's hitting every corner. It's in everything. It's in the plastic surgery that people are getting. It's in everything. It's in the different waves that are dominant right now. It's a lot, you guys. And, we just need to be honest and acknowledge that it's happening so that maybe we can start to do something about it. But being oblivious it's not the wave. Because what does that get you, in the end? What does that really get you? And blaming these women, what does that do for you? It's not going to solve the problem, and it's going to hit all of us because we're all going to be coming into an age where a lot of people could be considered popular or well-known, right? We're becoming more intimately entwined. We're becoming a community, a smaller community, even as population grows, because the internet makes everything smaller. It compresses everything. The digital world compresses everything. So the more we become digital, which is inevitable and it's not a bad thing. I don't think technology is bad. I don't think that the digital world is bad. But these are the things that we now have to be aware of and we now have to start focusing on. Everyone is going to be able to be well known. There's a high possibility that you could become famous, right? And so these things are going to start showing up in your life, and you need to be aware of what's happening. You need to be aware of what's happening, and especially because it's happening to younger and younger people. Younger and younger people are going viral. Younger and younger people are moving out at 18, 16, moving to LA, living on their own, going to these parties, crazy things and there's no protection. And these are still children. Regardless of how grown they look, they're still children. The trends that are happening on TikTok, and if people don't put their age in their bio, some of these girls look like they're 13 and doing certain trends that I'm just No, yes, it is sexual, and it's a type of sexual energy that we have to protect these kids from. We really do. Because yes, girls should be allowed to dance and express themselves and blah, 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 and same with the little boys. But like all of these thirst trap stuff, no, not for kids. Not for kids, please. Please, you guys. It's just too much sexual trauma. There's a lot of sexual trauma. It's happening all the time. All the time. And if you think energy isn't real, like, come on. So even if these kids are like doing this in their rooms alone, the people who are watching them are sending energy. It's an energy transfer when you view somebody's video and you like it and you comment and you follow. All of that is energy, and those people receive it. Because what is like, oh God, we don't even know what spiritual contracts are in the contracts that we sign up for on social media. I don't read terms of agreement. But who knows what is opened spiritually when you open a social media account, right? Who knows what is allowed in and what isn't? There's a lot of stalking that happens. We are a stalker society, right? My sister was just telling me this because I was explaining that there was this guy that followed me, found me on Facebook. They said they found me on Facebook dating, but I don't remember seeing them. They said that's how they saw me. But instead of matching with me or messaging me, they just friend requested me. And I thought that I knew them. So I allowed it because they look like they were my age. Like maybe we went to school together. I don't know. I thought I knew them from another dating app or just somewhere. Even dating apps, you have to think about what spiritual things are being open. This is just why boundaries are important. This is why I was talking about spiritual insurance. But anyways, yeah, he found me there, liked a bunch of my photos, and then never said anything. And then a few months later found me on Instagram, liked a bunch of my photos, never said anything. And I was explaining to my sister that it felt like somebody had walked into my house, was looking at my stuff, and then not saying hello to me and didn't know me, but was just in my house looking at my stuff and not saying hello to me and not being afraid. So I was like, what the fuck? And even though my Instagram page is it was private at that point, and so was my Facebook. But I let him in because I thought I knew him, but I think I knew him from a past life. I don't know what to explain it, but I think I knew him from a past life because I swear to God I knew him. But anyways, behavior like that is kind of stalkery behavior. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not an evil thing. It's not anything like that. It's just stalkery behavior. And stalking is a human thing. It just happens, right? But we are in a stalker society. People stalk people's things. People stalk people's pages. There's like no boundaries, right? And that's not great. It's really just not. We need boundaries. And the problem is that Gen X came in and gave us all of these technological advancements and then was like, and didn't give any education, didn't try to help us understand what would be going on, how this would change the world. And maybe they didn't even really know how this would change the world. But like, where the fuck are all of the things to try and like help kids work through this? Because I've been on the internet since I was a kid. I feel like since I was 5, because I've been on the YouTube since I was living in Oshawa. And when I was living in Oshawa, I was like 5, 6, and 7, I think. So since I was 5 years old, I think I've been on YouTube. And I knew very early on how to look up things that would give me sexual content, right? Like I wasn't on Pornhub at that point. I don't think I knew about Pornhub until I got into middle school. But I knew about YouTube very early on, and YouTube had no boundaries back then. And I knew what to look up to watch things that were sexual. Like I knew to look up girls kissing girls. That was my first ever search, my first ever like porn search. And there was porn on there, and it was not like it was not protected or anything like that. Open for everyone to see. And obviously I was too young to be on YouTube, but I'm a kid and I'm smart and I knew how to get online. Like, what the fuck? Like, all of these, like, oh, you have to be 13, you have to be, like, what does that mean? What does that really even fucking do? I know that there are ways to protect children from being on certain platforms and from getting access to certain things. There are protections that you can put in, more than a simple email address that confirms your birthday. They don't want to protect kids from these things. They want kids to have access to these things. They want people to be sexually traumatized because they want to build a sexually violent society. Because when the sexual energy in your society is mostly violent, which is what it is in our world, our sexual energy on Earth is incredibly violent. It's in everything. It's the reason why we're going through climate change, because we live in a sexually violent society. But when your energy is sexually violent, it's very, very easy to have control over people because people are too traumatized to fight back. You're like brutalized in all of these ways, and then everybody's expecting you to make a change, and it's like, I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going. It's like your world is spinning and you can't get a hold of your senses. They say that if you experience sexual trauma, if you become a survivor, you're likely to become a survivor again. Why is that? Why is that? And I'm reading this book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about that as well. A lot of these things are intentional, and as we move more and more into a deeply spiritually rooted place where we really do understand that everything is spiritual, and for me, I think I'm probably working on right now I'm really interested in the telepathic and the metaphysical and things like that, and how that can fit into the physical as well. There's a real need to become in tune with your senses. But don't take everything at face value. Okay? And try to remember that you can still see the good in people. That's what I was going to say about social media. I was on Instagram, and there's this new housewife for Housewives of Beverly Hills called Diana. And people don't like her because right now people really like Sutton. And I don't know, they don't like Diana because she brags about her money. But to me, she doesn't really brag about her money. The way she speaks about her money actually feels like she's quite insecure about it. And she's also trying to fit into a housewife role. So she's doing what she thinks housewives do. And she doesn't really understand how it works yet. But people are so quick to, pounce these days. People are very, very triggered. Everybody is like vibrating because we're so energy filled to the point where it's like, that's why burnout is coming for a lot of people, and burnout's already been happening for so many of us, but it's coming on a big level, like on an energetic level, which I think is why we're disengaging with social media, because that's just way too much energy to take on top of already being burnt out. But yeah, there's this new housewife, Diana, and she made this comment about black content creators or something, and how she would hate to be a black content creator. And when I heard that, I didn't look into it, and then I saw a post about it and her explanation, and to me, and people don't think her explanation is real, but it makes a lot of sense to me. She said that she thought that a black content creator was like those pages that make really sinister and mean posts about people, about celebrities and things like that, and dig up dark. I'm using dark because of she's associating black with darkness, with badness. And yes, why are you associating with that? But you guys, let's be real. What are the societal connotations that are connected? Darkness is connected to blackness. They connect blackness to bad. They connect bad to evil, to sinister, all of those things. So let's not be aloof, right? I think her explanation made sense. I understand and I believe her. But a lot of people are in this space where they don't want to give anyone any benefit of the doubt because they're so exhausted and they're so pissed off. But the people that they're angry with are not the people that they're attacking. It's the big government people and I don't even know if it's the government. It might be people who are not even seen. It's people who are not seen, which is so crazy because they're controlling the physical world. Yeah, it's the people who are not seen that are controlling the physical world. And that doesn't mean that they're not here in the 3D, but we just don't see them, right? We don't know them. We don't know their faces. And I even think because there's things going on in the ancestral realm as well, right? There's a reason why it feels like people have not been receiving their karma. It's because they haven't, because there's a lot of blockages that are beyond us, and it's even kind of beyond like ancestors trying to help. Ancestors are also dealing with and combating a lot. And we have to remember that not everybody is sorry, for what they've done in their lives, for what they did in their lifetime. There are ancestors who exist who probably are not apologetic for their lifetimes, right? Because we're dealing with something that is a lot bigger than just Earth and incarnating on Earth or incarnating on another. Like, we're dealing with a discussion about what it means to incarnate and what it means to exist and the trauma attached to that. And am I responsible for that? Am I accountable for that? It's the same way I get frustrated here on Earth, because I'm like, okay, so you traumatized me, but now I'm responsible for my healing. But you traumatized me, but I'm responsible for my healing. But it's like, yeah, that's what it is. And so I do the work because I'm not interested in waiting around, waiting for somebody else to help me heal. And I can understand the ways that I got myself in this position, but I also understand the ways that it was not my fault, right? But either way, you've got to move forward. There are some people on soul levels, there are some souls who are like, I'm this way because of this trauma that we allowed because of the universal laws that exist and the way that the universe exists with incarnating and all of that. So why should I be responsible for the trauma that I bring to other people? Because really that's trauma that you brought to me, and they're like speaking to the universe or to spirit, right? So they don't want to be accountable either, and they're in their own trauma. So that is a traumatized soul, right? And we talk about traumatized people, and then it's like, oh, well, then your soul heals and you do this work. But like, no, like there are souls that are traumatized and that continue to incarnate and go and incarnate from their trauma base, right? And it's not like they're incarnating to heal something. Sometimes they're just traumatized, and then they're also just incarnating. There's no rules. There's no real rules to this game. This isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, everybody has to get better with time. No. There's no rules. That we're living in like a fucking circus, okay? It's just ridiculous. It's out of control. But there's a lot of revolutions happening right now. And there's a lot of awareness being brought to light that is going to allow people to make informed decisions and allow incarnating beings to sway what's happening beyond our 3D structured world. And that is really important. So there's so much going on, and I feel like I've said so much, but I also don't feel like I've said enough. But I'm like, at this point, I've said what I can, and my nose is stuffed, and I want to go get a treat, and then maybe I'll come back and talk about it more. I brought my cards to do a reading, but I didn't do it because I didn't want to. I just didn't feel the need to. But yeah, there's a lot going on. There's no need to be afraid. These next few months are going to be important for you, and it might be in ways that feel like not important enough. But I would say to pay attention. Pay attention to your thought patterns. And before you decide to attack somebody and go after someone or critique someone, try and see it from all sides and see if you really want to attack them or if you're thinking about something a little bit bigger, right? Because there's always something bigger going on. Like with Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and those two comments. I don't think that either of them are bad people. I think that there's a lot going on with them. I think that those comments sucked, and I think that they were saying something, but I also think that there's many ways in which consciousness is being, it's on a spectrum. And I think that black men are under a lot of manipulation, and that doesn't mean that black men are not accountable. It just means that things are complex, right? And I think that the Kardashians are experiencing a lot of spiritual, sexual violence and exploitation. And I think a lot of women in the entertainment industry are experiencing a lot of spiritual, sexual violence and exploitation that is transferring into the physical, like the 3D. Everything is physical, everything is metaphysical. But yeah, transferring into the 3D and making things very difficult. But that doesn't mean that there's no accountability, right? Just try to also remember that if somebody's been traumatized in their childhood and then they're operating from that place, yes, they're an adult, but also they're really a child still. And so, compassion can't just stop once somebody reaches 18, right? And they're a quote unquote adult. We have to be compassionate and understand that healing your inner child and your inner teenager is like a fuckload of work, and it isn't very easy, and it's not a simple one-time conversation. It's not just like a year, it's like a long time, because how long is your childhood and how long are your teenage years, and how much does that really affect you? And being an adult is like a myth. Like, what is an adult, So yeah, but just try to really, really operate from your heart if you can. Try to really operate from your heart and try to disengage from social media. It's just, right now, it doesn't feel like it's very helpful. It just doesn't. If you find a space that makes you feel good, then, go ahead and do what you want ultimately. But if I could give any advice, with Mercury going into Cancer, with us being in Cancer season, and then we're going to be in Leo season, and then we'll be in a little bit of Virgo and Libra season, and Scorpio season by the time we get to like November, which is when I feel like we'll be in another chapter. But I feel like this, from like now until like early November, we're in a chapter. This is a specific phase. The Saturn Era is what I'm calling it, even though I think Saturn retrograde ends in September, something like that. But yeah, this is an important time to really, really try to be compassionate and see things from all sides. And if you're gonna attack a person, try to think about what's behind them, what's above them, what is below them, what is circling them, because it's probably not that person. It's probably the energy around it. And then try to connect that to that energy and see where that comes from, because that's probably where your answer is, right? Try to take your eyes off of celebrities, because I think a lot of them are just, they're in a complicated situation. And I think a lot of us are about to be humbled and understand how complicated of a situation they're in through, this, the digital world, and how well known we're all going to be and how connected we're all going to be. I think you're going to realize that shit isn't as sweet as you thought. And honestly, because let's be real, a lot of the things that people yell at and get mad about celebrities about are things that I see y'all do on the daily, on the bus, on social media, on your own platforms, in the school hallway, at work. I see it happen on the daily, right? We're all really doing the same things, but when it's under a magnifying scope and you can see yourself reflected into somebody else, and you see something that you don't like, you attack it, but you're really just attacking yourself, and you really just need to heal, right? So if you see something you don't like and it makes you go into a mode of attack and meanness and kind of cruelty, try and think about where that comes from, Try and think about if you see a little bit of yourself in that, because now is not the time to try and tear anybody down. Never is the time, but we're in such vulnerable spaces, and I think that we have a very beautiful future ahead of us. But to get there, you're gonna have to go through the full spectrum of what it is to be on a journey. And, it's like I said in that other video, when you're at the very edge of transformation, when you're going through a detox and renewal, when you're dying, it's not all bliss. It's not all beautiful. When you're fasting, there's hard parts about it. When you're detoxing, when the toxins are coming out, you get pimples, you get stomach aches, you're bloated, you're constipation, all this shit comes up. And you have to just work through it. And we're working through it. We're pushing through it. But try to really connect to your heart. Try to really connect to your loving consciousness. We all have consciousness. We all have access to the same things. Try to connect to the part that really feels good to your heart, okay? And try to really seek clarity in a way that is liberating for you and can also connect you deeper with others, because community is going to be huge right now. You don't want to be alone and isolated and disconnected completely. That's not going to help you. And if you are just fully disconnected, at least try to connect with nature. Try to connect with the earth. And I think that she'll bring you to where you need to be to connect with other people as well. We are not each other's enemies. We're really not. A lot of us are really just under a lot of control. So the people that you're mad at are probably not the people that you're mad at, is really just honestly what it is. Yeah. Seek clarity. Ignorance is not bliss, y'all. It's not bliss. One bit. And mind your business. Like, if you see somebody going through something, mind your business, because you were probably just there the other day. Like, that's what Queen's Cup was saying this week, and she's absolutely right. She's like, as we, go through this ascension and you see people who are going to be struggling and fighting it, and you're going to be looking at them like, girl, you were there just a year ago, you were there last week, you were there 10 years ago, so please stop. You were there last lifetime. Let's just be compassionate, but be compassionate and also have the ability to think critically. Call out things that don't make sense to you. But as you call them out, dig deeper. So if you think that, this celebrity is doing this wrong, okay, and then dig deeper beyond that, right? Don't just leave it at that person, because that's exactly what they want you to do. That's exactly what these, the people who are actually powerful want you to do. So when the Kardashians do something that triggers all of us because it's fucked up, or they make a mistake that they said that they, or they gaslight us or whatever, or they do something that doesn't make sense, the intention is to get you to just be mad at them instead of go further beyond that and think about what is operating beneath them, what is operating behind them. You know what I mean? There's very specific reasons why they've been able to reach Kim Kardashian and Kylie Kardashian, who I think have experienced the most sexual violence and the most spiritual sexual attacks, have been able to reach billionaire status, right? But it's not the same way that men get to be billionaires. It's not with the same power. What did it take for Oprah to become a billionaire? The amount of sexual violence that Oprah has experienced. What did it take for Rihanna to become a billionaire? Rihanna got beat up, and we all watched it. We all saw it. And then we saw her make songs with him again, and we see other people make songs with him. And it's not to say that Chris Brown doesn't ever get to move on, but what does it take to reach these levels of power? And are these people really in power? And what is power? Right? Let's look at who really has power. And how are they using it? Because power is also a spectrum, right? In its depth and its quality and its use. Let's just be critical, and let's really think deeply, and let's not just go for what feeds our ego, right? Because the easy answer is to just talk about the racism and the trauma triggering with the Kardashians and things like that, or they're participating in this, they chose this, or they chose to date black men, blah blah blah, or attacking black men and saying blah blah blah, this is about them, blah, blah. Those are the easy answers. None of that is a new thing. We've all been talking about that. You're not saying anything new if you say any of that, right? So let's dig deeper. What is behind that? What is beyond that? It's the easy answer to say that, plastic surgery is racist, or it's not, it's sexist, and there's other things. Or it's the easy answer to be like, well, these rappers, these women rappers, now there's all of a sudden all these women rappers, but they all rap about the same thing. And, it's empowering because of this and that. That's the easy answer. Let's go deeper. Let's dig deeper, and dig deeper on either side. If you want to go still with the empowerment, dig deeper into that. Find more. Just let's not stick at the surface. We're no longer in a place to be at the surface, because the surface is where all the toxins are coming out. That's why we all feel it. That's why we're all triggered at the drop of a hat, because we're at the surface right now, and all the toxins are coming out. All the stuff is coming out. It's radiating out. So we want to dig in deeper. We want to find the deeper self. We want to find the core of what it is, and we want to go there. And that's what we want to start looking at. We're finding the root. We're in our root chakra, our red energy. Okay? So, yeah. Just, dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper. Okay. That's it. Goodbye. I hope I made sense, and I hope that all of this was delivered with love. Ultimately, I really am just here for the progression of our earth, and I want us to get to a better place as a universe. I want us to get to a better place as a galaxy. I want us to be in a better place, right? Because this is hard. It's very hard being an earth being. It's hard incarnating. It's hard being a person. It's hard being a black woman. It's hard being a woman. It's hard being gay. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard right now. And it doesn't have to be like this. So let's just work through it together, because that's what we can do. And we're going to make it out either way. A future does exist. So we're going to make it out. But let's try and make it out on the side that feels good for us, right? If we don't have to suffer, why should we? So that's it. Okay, bye.